Can Balrogs Talk by Deep Geek. Now, whatever this guy is about to say, I can actually tell you an exact quote here. I have it on my phone. Let me pull it up real quick. I have an actual exact quote from Tolkien. Let me just post it here. J.R.R. Tolkien explicitly stated that the Balrog of Moria, at least him, never speaks or makes any vocal sound at all, notably writing this in instruction letter number 210. So, at least we know specifically that Balrog could not talk, could not even
Can
make sound.
Balrogs speak? This is a debate that has been reignited by the Rings of Power, but...
Yes, so by the way, if you don't know, in the Rings of Power, they have recently, I don't even remember who it was that they cast, but it doesn't really matter. I think it was like Simon Pegg, which is hilarious. They casted Simon Pegg as the Balrog in the Rings of Power. By the way, if you're watching the Rings of Power right now, fuck you. Fuck you for still watching that. No, that's a bad show. Don't watch it. And if you're supporting it, then you're a bad person for supporting it. That's what I genuinely believe that. If you're watching the Rings of Power still, you're a bad person. And yeah, you said I watched 3 episodes of the first season of Rings of Power last week. Oh man, dude. Well, you know, I stand by what I said. Okay, it's horrible. All right, never mind. See, you can watch a little bit of it and then say it's horrible and not watch it. I'm cool with that. All right, because I did that. I watched a couple episodes. I watched season 1 and gave up. That's fair, you know. And if you're still watching like the new episodes, oh man, it's just crazy. And now they're putting Simon Pegg in as a Balrog, and the Balrog is gonna fight Sauron in a one-on-one battle because they already showed footage of that. Like that ever happens before. Also, they wanted to make Sauron this like sympathetic character, you know, the master of all darkness, evil incarnate, like Morgoth's destroyer. They were gonna make him a sympathetic character, and they want to make everybody ugly. I don't know. Why do you want to make elves ugly, dude? Like that's my question too. Why would we ever have an elf that's not like a 10 out of 10 knockout, whether it's a male or a female? Dude, elves are supposed to be beautiful creatures. That's literally how it's written. So don't ever show me an elf that's even a 9 out of 10. I don't even want to see it. Nope. Elves need to be 10 out of 10. They're basically all models, exactly. I literally don't remember anything about it, which says everything. Yeah, bad show, horrible show.
Tolkien talked about it in his letters too.
Yeah.
Let's take a look.
Okay, here we go.
Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to In Deep Geek. If you like theories, background, history and lore about The Lord of the Rings, A Song of Ice and Fire and The Witcher, this is the place for you.
Okay, so wait, hold on. Before we continue, George R.R. Martin came out recently and said he's all depressed and shit because now he's old and he can't do stuff and his friends are dying. And to that I say, I don't care, dude. I do not care. You've lived an amazing life. You've had a great life. Now you're old and you have to slow down. Oh, well. And also, dog, can we stop sucking George R. R. Martin's dick for 1 second and realize that writing the beginning of a story is actually the easiest part of any story? You can write a compelling beginning to any story. Like, I mean, sit down for 10 minutes and you can have a compelling intro to anything. It's writing the ending and it being good and satisfying that's actually hard, that makes a good writer. I don't know. For me personally, this might be a really hot take. I don't think George R. R. Martin is a good writer. He can't finish his books. He can't finish his story. He can only write the start of it. That's not a good writer. Sorry, my fault, my bad, but that's how I feel, you know? You said beauty is subjective, but elves have a certain handful of looks. You can't stray from that. Otherwise, you're not sticking to the source material. And if you're not sticking to the source material, you don't respect the fans and you deserve to fail. That's exactly how I feel. You said you're personally not even a fan of the start of his story?
It is a point incontrovertible that the Balrog does not speak in The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Gandalf talks to it, you cannot pass and all that, but we are told rather simply and chillingly that the Balrog...
Well, and the reason that Gandalf does that is because in Lord of the Rings, words have power, especially as a wizard. So when he says you cannot pass, that is a fact. He has now made that a fact of the world. Wizards can only use magic against other beings that are not mortal, though. They can't use them against man. They can't use them against elves or orcs But they can use them against like, well, maybe they could use them against orcs. I can't remember, but they can't use them against like mortal beings. I'm not gonna read that part out loud, dude.
Balrog made no answer. Most of us didn't really think about it much. Gandalf's fall and the Fellowship's escape were far more important. But recently, the Rings of Power reignited the debate. Remember, they have the Balrog, in that show too, and they announced that their Balrog would talk, voiced by Simon Pegg.
There it is, Simon Pegg. Their Balrog's not only going to make sounds, but it's going to talk, and it's going to fight Sauron, and Sauron's going to use his special ring, and Celebrimbor is going to show up, and oh my god, fuck me,
Can
dude.
Balrogs talk? Can that Balrog talk? Well, Tolkien, of course, addressed this, albeit briefly, in one of his letters, which was a response to a draft film treatment that had been sent to him for comment in 1958. Wow. We don't know all the details of that draft, but Tolkien doesn't go easy on it, saying that The Lord of the Rings was treated, as it would seem, carelessly.
Just get Nick Frost to show up as an assistant like the old time. It'll be a little orc Nick Frost that shows up, walking up next to the Balrog, being like, hey, man, you want to have one of these little ice creams? I can't remember what they're called. Yeah, man, let's have an ice cream. And then let's go down to the pub.
In general, in places recklessly, and with no evident signs of any appreciation of what it is all about.
Let's go
Tolkien
back.
evident signs of carelessly on it, saying that The Lord of the Rings...
So this is what he said whenever they tried to make the Balrog talk before, apparently.
...was treated, as it would seem, carelessly in general, in places recklessly, and with no evident signs of any appreciation of what it is all about.
Yeah, okay, yep.
Tolkien was...
Yep, that explains Amazon. That is a perfect quote for what Amazon is doing to Lord of the Rings right now, to what Netflix is doing to Avatar: The Last Airbender, or not Netflix, who owns them right now? Whoever it is destroying Avatar: The Last Airbender. Yeah, they're making the Balrog speak, and it's gonna be Simon Pegg. That's not a joke. That's serious. No, yeah, we're being 100% real here. No, yeah, that's not a joke.
Signs of any
real.
Appreciation of what it is all about. Tolkien was generally quite harsh on adaptations. Anyway, he gave detailed notes on this draft, including this. The Balrog never speaks or makes any vocal sound at all. Boom. Above all, he does not laugh or sneer.
Boom.
The screenwriter may think that he knows more about Balrogs than I do, but he cannot expect me to agree with him.
Boom, baby. Boom. He does not laugh or sneer. He makes no vocal sounds at all. So even the movies that we all love got it wrong, where the Balrog goes, you know, and all that. That's wrong. The Balrog never makes a sound, ever. Balrogs, in general, may think that he knows more about Balrogs, with an S, than I do, but he cannot expect me to agree with him. Balrogs do not make vocal sounds. They do not have vocal cords, because their vocal cords, most likely, in my opinion, are melted out from all the fire inside of them. They couldn't speak. They lead by being what they are. You fear them, you follow them, and yes, you get insta-killed if you don't. Exactly.
Which seems pretty clear. The Balrog is silent. Of course, that isn't to say that all Balrogs
all right, I gotta read this one. I see Rings of Power as some millennial art freaks fan fiction where they try to insert themselves into the story. That is the problem with modern media. That's what all modern media is right now. Whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Lord of the Rings, whether it's Ghostbusters, whether it's God of War, it doesn't matter. Last of Us, which I don't even like. Dude, all right, let me be clear about these. The Last of Us and the new God of War, I don't like them. But I think they ruin video games. Shit like that does. But it's just millennial art freaks who have they shouldn't be writing stories, but they got a bunch of power because all the people who are actually good at writing stuff got canceled, like with the Blizzard stuff that turned out to not even be true. Like, I don't know if you guys heard about that, but the Blizzard stuff, not true. The Cosby Suite, for example, that they were talking about was from an email that came years before any of the Cosby stuff came out. They called it the Cosby Suite because the floor looked like the Cosby sweater, which was referenced in the email. But because all the guys who were good at writing stuff got kicked out and all the millennial HR freaks got to take over, now we've got bad World of Warcraft. honestly. 95% I'd say, but would agree with this case 100%. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't, and I still think there are good examples of shows being written correctly. Like the Clone Wars Star Wars show was written, executed, and made almost perfectly, I'd say, from beginning to end. So nobody was able to ruin that, even though the ending came out near the whole real, like, high pitch of all these freaks taking over stuff. Like, dude, I'm sorry, but I'm so sick of like I'm so sick of millennials, and dude, I think I technically am a millennial, which fucks me up too. But I'm so sick of my own people ruining everything, dude. They can't write. They think that cringe shit is funny. Bad Batch was good too. You are, yeah, exact, yeah. I think I am, yeah. But I don't know, dude. We're ruining this shit, dude. I honestly don't think we can do creative things very well. Most of us, we're pretty bad at it.
Are always silent. Maybe Tolkien just had good reasons for this Balrog being
But
silent.
honestly, I think a big part of it is like rich kids. So like these rich people who never even were good at art in the first place. They probably got kicked out of they probably only got minor roles in the plays in high school and in middle school. They never even got to do anything in the plays, and now they're being able to write everything. Like, dog, I'm sorry, but how does Mindy Kaling get to write a show about Scooby-Doo whenever she's never been funny in her life? Whenever she was on the Always Sunny in Philadelphia show, I almost stopped watching it. That's how not funny she was, and that's how much she actively ruined the show for me. And then she gets to come in and ruin Scooby-Doo as well and make it this weird show about sexual things with teenagers. Like, it's I don't know, dude. It's fucking weird. It's all these weird people who were not cool in high school, and they get their daddy to pay for their spot in Hollywood. Honestly, nepotism is on the rise. We as people need to fight back against it. Don't give it our money. Exactly.
At that
And
particular.
it's like, well, if you don't give them your money, a million people still will do. And I'll be like, well, yeah, a million minus one, buddy. A million minus one.
Moment. And although Durin's Bane doesn't say a word, Gandalf speaks to it, warning it not to proceed, clearly thinking that it would understand him. And why wouldn't it? The Balrog is clearly intelligent. Tolkien did change his mind quite a bit on the exact nature of Balrogs. I did a video.
Again, I said Gandalf, like I said, Gandalf said, "You shall not pass," because words have power. Words are magic in Lord of the Rings, especially if you're a wizard like he is, a Maiar spirit or whatever he is. So, words have power. So when he says, "You shall not pass," and he strikes the ground with his staff, he's stating as a fact that Balrog will not pass this spot. It is physically impossible. It has been written into the reality of the world, and unless the Balrog's magic is stronger than mine, he will not pass this spot.
On that if you're interested, but seemingly settled on the idea that they are Maiar, which puts them in the same order of beings as Gandalf, Sauron, Radagast, and so on. And at the risk of contradicting the professor, the Lord of the Rings does show Durin's Bane making a vocal sound. We read that the Balrog fell forward with a terrible cry. An earlier draft had the Balrog letting out a gasping hiss, and unpublished material from Tolkien, later published in the History of Middle-earth, has the Balrog that Glorfindel fought shrieking, and Gothmog, the Lord of the Balrogs, quite clearly giving orders to others several times.
All right, but if it's an unreleased first draft of a book that he never intended for it to be out, and then he wrote in his own things that, no, I know more about Balrogs, they don't make sounds, then saying, well, this unreleased stuff that he never put out that were first drafted books that he never intended for anybody to see, that's the actual lore. If you believe that, then you're a fucking idiot. He never put it out, and he said explicitly the opposite, so I don't want to hear about his unreleased, unfinished work that he didn't want anybody to see. That actually counts. No, it doesn't.
Reference which has made its way into the Silmarillion.
It only counts in the points to where it's not overlapping, you know? That's the only point to where it counts, to where it's not overlapping with it all. I don't know how else to explain it.
Has Gothmog binding and gagging Húrin and taking him to Angband, quotes, with mockery. Now, technically, none of these examples are actual quotes of words said by Balrogs, and technically, most of them weren't in books published.
So what I am getting from this, too, though, is that Balrogs don't make laughing or sneering gestures. They don't talk. They don't do anything like that, but they can shriek in pain. You know, they can, like, if you're stabbing one in the throat, they could scream. If they're falling to their death, they could shriek. So it's not, maybe they do have vocal cords, but they just don't talk and stuff because there's no point to them.
During Tolkien's lifetime, though that's not unusual for Tolkien. The few pages of Durin's Bane in The Lord of the Rings is the only actual Balrog we see in books published in his lifetime. So, what is going on? Well, my best guess is that this silence of Balrogs evolved with Tolkien's understanding of Balrogs.
Yeah.
When Tolkien first conceived of them, there were literally hundreds or even thousands of them, and Gothmog as their captain seems particularly chatty, giving orders and mocking people. Actually, in an early bit of Tolkien's etymology, Goth is said to mean voice of, so Gothmog is the voice of Mog, probably a contraction of Morgoth. Christopher Tolkien even wondered aloud in a footnote whether the voice of Morgoth might be an equivalent of the voice of Sauron that we meet later in The Return of the King.
Yeah.
There's no definitive evidence either way, but Christopher Tolkien definitely thought it possible. In any event, it seems that this early incarnation of Balrogs definitely could and did talk. Now, this is where it gets really intriguing.
Before he actually found out what he wanted to write them as, before he actually solidified what they are, is what he's saying.
Because Tolkien's final decision that, I quote, there should not be supposed more than, say, 3 or at most 7 ever existed, which was because he had made them so much more powerful, was a handwritten note in the margins of an essay he was writing called The Annals of Aman. An essay he wrote in 1958, the same year he wrote that caustic note about the Balrog never speaking or making a sound. It seems that Tolkien went back and revisited his thinking about Balrogs in 1958, reducing them in number, increasing them in power, and making them more silent.
Seems pretty straightforward.
The earlier references to Balrogs talking or making sounds, including that stray reference in The Lord of the Rings itself, are remnants of earlier conceptions of what a Balrog was like. In fact, I suspect he either forgot about that terrible cry the Balrog gave out in Moria, or was ignoring it, or maybe even planning on removing it in a later edition.
Or as it fell and it was falling, it let out a terrible cry because it still can make sound. It just doesn't scream. It doesn't yell. It doesn't laugh. It doesn't talk. But it can still make sounds. It can still go as it's falling to its death. That's what I'm kind of getting, which does make Peter Jackson's, once again, the most the most following of the book, or most loyal to the book, the most loyal to the source material out of all of them.
So how in this final conception did Balrogs communicate? Perhaps they did talk, but Durin's Bane just didn't in that scene, and Tolkien thought it was important enough to point out. I'll let you know why I think that might be in a moment, but there is another possibility. Telepathy. Which I know sounds a bit out there, but bear with me, because this is actually something deeply ingrained in Tolkien's world called Osanwe.
All right. I don't know about this. Now, this is a possibility that I am willing to entertain.
Interchange of thought. It's not just a random workaround for how mute monsters might communicate. All beings in his creation can choose to open or close their minds to the outside world and others, and some more powerful minds can project thoughts or even read others' thoughts. Remember Galadriel reading the minds of the Fellowship in Lothlorien, or Gandalf telling Frodo when he awoke in Rivendell that, "You have talked long in your sleep, Frodo, and it has not been hard for me to read your mind and memory." Or when Frodo is on Amon Hen wearing the ring and Sauron is searching for him, he hears a voice. Then, as a flash from some other point of power, there came to his mind another thought. "Take it off! Take it off!
Take it
Fool,
off!
Take it off! Take off the ring!"
Yes, take it off! Oh, yeah!
That's almost certainly Gandalf projecting his thoughts to Frodo. Finally, you may have missed it, but as they are all journeying home towards the end of The Lord of the Rings, we get this description of Gandalf, Elrond, Galadriel, and Celeborn in conversation. "If any wanderer had chanced to pass, little would have been seen or heard, and it would have seemed to him only that he saw grey figures carved in stone, memorials of forgotten things now lost in unpeopled lands. For
What?
they did not
Okay.
move or speak with mouth, looking from mind to mind, and only their shining eyes stirred and kindled as their thoughts went to and fro. So powerful elves and Maiar could converse with the mind. Indeed, for naturally spiritual beings like Maiar, it is actually their natural state, because they don't naturally have physical bodies and physical voice boxes. And Balrogs are Maiar,
True.
so are Sanwer. Interchange of thought. Which brings us back to the key question. Why then was it important for Tolkien that the Balrog did not talk, or even make a sound?
All right, but this makes it even dumber for the Amazon thing. So now I'm thinking they're going to have Simon Pegg be the inner thoughts of Balrog, which just completely takes away how scary a Balrog is supposed to be. You know, you don't imagine that its inner thoughts are the sounds of fucking Simon Pegg. That's crazy.
I think it's because Tolkien wants us to see and feel and experience his evil characters being evil, not just have them tell us by their evil words.
Yeah.
At a basic level, this is show, don't tell.
A lot of them are supposed to be like pure evil, the embodiment of evil, not just evil, but pure evil.
There are no real evil monologues in The Lord of the Rings. Sauron never shows up to tell everyone what his master plan is to take over the world. The Witch King has a few cool lines when confronting Gandalf and then Éowyn, but for the most part, he remains silent while pursuing the ring across Middle-earth or leading Sauron's army. Shelob is silent, as is the Watcher in the Water and the Balrog. These aren't mindless creatures. They are cunning or intelligent, but they are creatures of action, not words. We see their power and judge them based on their actions, not what they tell us about themselves. The Balrog didn't have to talk back to Gandalf for us to know quite how powerful he was. We could see that by the power of his spells and how he just ignored Gandalf's own spoken show of power. The lack of talking makes Tolkien's villains more scary, and that, I think, is why he was so adamant that Durin's Bane did not talk.
True. Yeah, alright, so basically, no, the Balrog cannot talk. Maybe it has telepathy, maybe, but it can't talk at all. No outward vocals at all. So there's really no reason to give it a voice no matter what, honestly. You could just show instead of telling, but they don't like to do that in Hollywood anymore.